We are back. Welcome to the Betsperts Golf DFS Show here at where else? Betsperts Golf. I'm your host, John Daigle, and no splits with us today as Ron Kloss. Though his course preview, his first round leader pieces are all available on betspertsgolf.com right now, is out though. Returning, however, none other than the host of the Back Nine Bets podcast and Rotoballer's own Byron Lindeque. Byron, long time no see, buddy.
Long time no see, John. It's good to be back in the saddle with you and looking forward to seeing what we can take down for the week. Yeah.
I miss 4-day sweats. I'm very glad to be back talking about them as opposed to racking it all up, the stats and the studies leading only into Sunday as we are with football. And given, Byron, that it's an unofficial major week, I like to call it, we had to call on the big dogs for today's show. We couldn't do it by ourselves. And who else would I reach out to for that? None other than my 2019 championship basketball pickup partner, good friend in life, and then, of course, the man I'll be watching the final round with live this week, actually. None other than Roto Grinders' Derek Notorious Farnsworth. Noto, long time no see as well.
Yeah, how you doing, man? Yeah, we took down that basketball tournament, took down Big T and Dan, some of the other guys there. So I decided to hang up my basketball jersey after that. No more playing for me, but yeah, doing good. I'm sad Ron's not here. I was hoping to just pick his brain for an hour because that guy, he's got all the splits, everything you could ever want. So yeah, I'm excited to be on, excited for the week. We're done with pro-ams. We're done with course rotations. We get shot tracker for all 4 rounds. Let's go.
No Ron because he's out ill today, but yes, I will definitely be noting his course preview and everything articles on the site throughout the show because I've already read a lot of good metrics from him. That's what he carries every single week. So we'll do our best. And we are starting with, as we know, this winter major is what a lot of people call it, an event that really feels like the beginning of the heart of PGA season. This year's Waste Management Phoenix Open in Scottsdale, not only just a 40-minute commute from the madness that is Super Bowl media week right now, but also hosting every eligible top 25 player in the world, minus Willie Z, for a shot at the $3.6 million first place prize this week. And everyone is aware, Derek, of the thin air, the altitude playing in the sunny deserts, the amazing 16th par 3 stadium green with a ruckus and, quite honestly, drunk crowds. But from everything you've gathered throughout the week, what are the most important metrics that you're weighing for lineup building here to start?
Yeah, so let me pull up the Justin Ray stat because I thought that was a pretty good one. So he said Since 2010, the winners at the Waste Management Phoenix Open have gained 65% of their strokes on the field via ball striking, the highest of any regular course on the PGA Tour. So everything that you're going to look at kind of points to ball striking. You know, the greens here, they're pretty big, they're tiered. And you got to hit your, approach shots pretty close if you want to give yourself birdie looks. And scrambling's, fairly straightforward. You will have some places where you got to get up and down for par or for birdie. But for the most part, looking at total drivers, looking at good iron players. And, yeah, that's kind of my recipe here. We've seen a lot of bad putters, kind of play well here in the past. And I wouldn't say the course necessarily fits one specific skill set. We've seen, Webb, Woodland, just a number of different guys, play well here. But, yeah, mostly looking at ball striking. What about you guys?
Byron, curious to get your thoughts on that as well. And to your point, Derek, in Ron's course preview, he did note that the average approach shot here comes from 164 yards out. So I've been weighing in my model approach shot or proximity to the hole from 150 to 175, give or take. We'll talk about that when we get into actual picks and talking about the golfers. But Byron, what are your thoughts on what you're weighing for lineups?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Ron with the average falling in that range. I've worked it out to be 6 out of 10 shots come from 125 to 200 yards this week. So that 75-yard bucket is going to be about 60% of the shots that you see on approach. Ball strikers, as always, I'm a big iron play guy. And then I've kind of weighted in a little bit more accuracy off the tee than actual just off the tee metrics in general. I think a lot of people are going to be looking at kind of distance, and just to kind of get a little different this week, I'm going to be focusing on guys that are going to put themselves in the middle of the fairway a lot more than regular to a pros. And I think with a lot of danger off the tee, that's going to be a very important metric I'm looking at and leaning on here this week, along with bogey avoidance, which I think is kind of, a similar stat in a way with accurate drivers of the ball.
And see, Byron, I think to your point, yes, people will actually almost ignore accuracy somewhat for distance, even though I think given the air that we can take a usual driver who doesn't average 300 yards and then bump them up a little bit and say, okay, like if everyone's getting helped out, then we don't need to worry too much about extreme distance here. I would like to more or less prioritize accuracy. I think that's exactly what, to your point.
Absolutely. And there's only 3 par 5s versus the 4 that you typically see on a par 72. So that's 1 or 4 extra opportunities that the big long hitters aren't going to have over someone like a Tom Kim or a Webb Simpson, like we've said, have succeeded here in the past. So it's an interesting avenue to take. Definitely. You
mentioned the putting as well, Derek. Is this something, knowing that usually putting and in particular scrambling around the green doesn't factor in too much here? It's not really a big issue, not many obstructions here. Does that mean you are canceling that metric altogether, or are you still looking at someone who is like great at scrambling from the rough in particular?
I usually don't dive in that much in terms of my scrambling, from the rough or the sand, whatever it may be. But in terms of the putting, I mean, you're going to have to make putts to win. That's pretty much the case any PGA Tour event. But when you have, some of these some of these big birdie fests where everybody's hitting the green, it often comes down to a putting contest. You heard John Rahm at the Amex last year calling it a bleeping putting contest. That's just not the case here. You're going to have to hit the ball well to put yourself in contention. And Byron, I want to pick your brain. Do you factor in putting splits on different grass types, or do you just like looking at regular? Okay.
So what I typically try and do for my putting metrics is I'll take 5 to 15 feet on all surfaces. I feel like that's a very good predictor of success putting wise. And then I'll just take general putting on Bermuda as the other half of my putting. I think you could also narrow it down to 5 to 15 feet because that's just like a really solid range that you can see predictable metrics come from players. But I kind of get a little lazy and just do a general Bermuda putting over the last 50 rounds, which I feel like is also going to eliminate those outlier weeks that guys bomb everything in from who knows where. But just to get back to your point quickly, Derek, there about not too much around the green stuff, is we're going to see a lot of tight lies this week, and I think that affords a lot of these guys an opportunity to chip it in. I think they're going to have so much more control over their chips, and I think you can see like around the green correlations are a little higher this week. Because of that, I think we see a lot of chipping in. So if you got a really good, tidy short game, you can't go wrong here. So that's going to definitely be a secondary metric I'm looking at this week.
Well, let's get right into it, because from the 11K at the top to John Rahm on DraftKings in particular, all the way down to 9,700 on DraftKings to Colin Morikawa, I think that's where everyone starts the conversation. And I have to include those 3 guys, Homa at 9.9, Justin Thomas at 9.8, and as we mentioned, Colin, because I think they're going to, at least one of them will come in top 3, top 5 in ownership. So really, we should discuss them along with the Rahms, Rorys, Schefflers of the world. So Byron, let's go ahead and start with you and talk about your favorite options among this top tier, because my issue, yes, you can fit 2. I've already tried it. I think you can do it successfully. We'll talk about the confident golfers, or at least the ones we're confident in to plug in to do that later on in the show. But honestly, my issue for this week has been who to eliminate, because there are so many good options, and there's so many good options who are performing well recently. And that's my issue. So let's go ahead and talk about your favorite golfers, regardless of ownership, who you want to be overweight on at the top.
Yeah, I'm big on Tony Finau this week. I think he's going to be one of the few names that go overlooked a little bit. The guy's just rattled off a bunch of wins recently, and I think knowing that he played with John Rahm last week or 2 weeks ago at the Farmers was a bit of a concern for me. I don't think he played his best golf. He's not playing with him for the first 2 rounds this week. I'm totally okay with that. He's had a pretty shoddy course history. I think he's missed 3 cuts, but then the one cut he did make, he lost in a playoff to Webb. So, I mean, when he's playing good golf, he plays good golf on this golf course, and he's playing good golf right now. The ball striking is impeccable. He made the cut at the Farmers, losing like 8 strokes putting, basically, which is something that you don't see a lot of. And then just did that Saturday stuff on, went 8 under par. So I love his upside. Everything about Tony Finau's price, ownership, the whole shebang, it really works out for me this week. He's one of my favorites here. And then one more chalky guy would be Xander. I love the savings discount you get there. He's got the same course history as John Rahm at this venue, which everyone's, doing the Marilyn Monroe blowing smoke up their skirt because Johnny's all playing great golf. But He's just got great course history, got great recent form as well. So Xander's $1,000 cheaper, same ownership. Let's go. I'm all about Xander this week.
One of my first outright bets this week was on Xander. I was hoping we got maybe a little bit of an injury discount, but given that you just named him, I'm assuming we definitely won't. That's unfortunate. But I also will be overweight on him too. What about you, Derek, at the top?
Yeah, I really like the Finau call. One other note on him is he did move to Scottsdale in 2020. And then right after that, that's when he lost in the playoff to Webb. Did miss the cut here last year, but I think it was right on the numbers. So I'm with you on Finau. He's been playing great. He's a different player now than he has been at this event in the past too. So I like that call quite a bit. I do like Rahm. I mean, I know it's the easy answer up here. He's been great. Seems to win every other week at this point, and went to Arizona State, so he's got the local ties. 5 straight top 13s here. So yeah, I like Rahm. I like Finau. And then if we're going to the bottom of that range, I do like Colin Morikawa. I mean, Byron talked about accuracy off the tees, one of the more accurate drivers, one of the best total drivers on tour, obviously a great iron player as well. The short game can be hit or miss for sure, but he did gain 7.1 strokes in his first 2 events this season, coming off of a third and a second. I usually don't play a lot of Morikawa, but I like him quite a bit this week.
I think, I could be wrong, Derek. Give me your thoughts here. I would guess everyone starts with Rory over Rahm and then Scheffler.
It's really tough. I mean, I've never been a great, ownership guru. We have Rahm projected as the highest of this bunch, Rahm and Morikawa. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. You can really go, any number of ways. I like the Xander start as well. He feels like the safest point per dollar option up here. And he's kind of similar to Cantlay too, who we'll get to in a minute. But yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a lot separating any of these guys up at the very top.
What about you between those 3, Byron? Where do you think people start? Like Rory, of course, hasn't averaged any lower than 2.5 total strokes gained in any tournament since the FedEx Championship last August. Like he also, like Rahm, has been on fire. So he's also one of my favorite core pieces here.
Yeah, no, I think the first click would, I want to say people want to go with Rory just because you're going to just see the salary discount there for the average jabroni, like, that we're speaking to here. And then I don't see a lot of people clicking Scotty. I just don't see them going to him when you can choose Xander at a cheaper price versus, we got John and Rory sitting right up there, just premium talents right now. And then you get that discount on Xander.
So Finau, in my opinion, which is why I like your call, is the one that gets lost among this entire group. Yeah. And so again, if that's the case, that's what I'm projecting right now, then of course I would want to be a little bit heavier on Finau. Before we leave this tier though, Derek, I want to get the player you are likely to fade in this range.
Ooh, it's a tough one.
Because again, you got to eliminate choices. That's this whole tournament. There are so many good options as we sneak along to other tiers.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a strong reason for it, but just simply because I have to answer it, I'll go Max Homa, just coming off the win. But this definitely seems like his type of atmosphere. He's going to be, pumped up for this. And just one other note on Scheffler. People hate playing the defending champ of events, so I think that'll help lower his ownership too.
And your one fade among the top, since I'm forcing you to choose, Byron.
Yeah, I think I'm going to fade Justin Thomas. I don't see the appeal here. I think the course history is obviously going to be something that people look at, but this is course history that we've had with like 75% of these names we're seeing in this lineup, not in the field. And this week, I think there's so many other guys that can totally take this course apart that have just better recent form than Justin Thomas. And, I'm out on him. I just don't think he's playing good golf right now relative to his skill set.
JT is actually my pick as well, though I will say I'd be comfortable with whomever we eventually would project to be higher in ownership between Morikawa and JT. Like I like Morikawa more, but if I'm thinking he comes in at that salary at like top 3, I don't know if that's the case right now, but in lineup building, logically, once you start with a Rahm or Rory, then going down to Morikawa makes a lot of sense. So I can see him sort of steaming his way and leaking in here to become one of the highest rostered golfers. And if that's the case, I wouldn't mind fading him either. You mentioned Cantlay though, Derek. So let's go ahead and start there between Cantlay, Big game Matsuyama, Victor Hovland, I think will be popular. We have Tom Kim, who's been playing well recently. We cannot forget Cameron Young, who I think will also get steamed at 8,900. So go ahead and give us your thoughts on Cantlay and the rest of this next tier.
Yeah, so I mean, Cantlay, very similar to Xander. I mean, they're best friends on and off the course, and they have very similar games. No weaknesses. They kind of do everything well the same. It was his debut here last year. Ended up, losing in the playoff to Scheffler. So I think he makes a lot of sense. He's been in good form for what feels like years. Pretty much any event outside of the majors, you can count on Cantlay. The rest of the range, I mean, I like Sung J M quite a bit. Just feels like one of those guys. If you're playing cash games, you just plug him in, you take your top 20, and you move on. Tom Kim, obviously everyone's favorite. He's gonna have something up his sleeve on 16. I can just feel it. Something good's gonna happen, and the crowd's gonna go crazy for Tom Kim. So I like those two down at the bottom. No strong take on Cam Young. What was he doing in Saudi last week? I didn't really understand why he was playing over there.
Perhaps warming up, I guess. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I don't have a take. I think he just putts better not on U.S. soil. So that's going to be my take on Cam Young.
Okay.
I can't handle a guy that can't make 5-footers. He's one of the worst on tour making 5-footers, and I just don't see how he's off the tee is going to overpower that deficiency in his game this week. So I'm definitely fading. Here's my fade for you, John, is Cam Young.
That's a good one because again, he's going to get played a lot. I'm projecting right now.
Yeah. In fact, I even have a Tom Kim matchup at plus 108 over Cam Young, which I think
I like that.
I'll just spitball. Yeah, I think that's FanDuel plus 108. Tom Kim's like one of the best iron players in the world, and it's been on repeat since he's shown up now. And, I think he's going to be a perfect pivot off of Colin Morikawa. He's that same type of player, arguably got a better short game, more reliable short game. I think we're going to need that a lot here this week. He can really feed off the crowd, more so than most of the people in this tournament. And like Derek just said, oh my God, if he does something miraculous on 16th, I might just lose my stuff. It's going to be great entertainment regardless. And I love him on a big stage. We saw him at the President's Cup doing fantastic things, really at a Quail Hollow golf course that should not suit his game at all. So similar to this one. I think he's going to do fantastic on the big stage. And then, I'm fading Hideki. I don't like his off the tee numbers leading into this event. A lot of the course history is from further than like 3 or 4 years ago. That's really good. Recently, not so amazing here. So I'm out on the Hideki steam as well, and I'm a big fan of Cantlay, with the Xander love there. I think these two guys are going to just tear this course apart this week.
As we continue on, the next range of golfers, Jordan Spieth, Sam Burns. I've noticed some industry talk, perhaps steaming them between Tyrrell Hatton, Shane Lowry, and Tommy Fleetwood. Any thoughts among this group, Derek?
Man, all these guys are, kind of popular just because they kind of have to be. But I don't like anybody in the 8K range, really. I don't feel great about Spieth's game right now. Played pretty bad last week. I don't feel great about Burns. I mean, he T11 the last time out, but prior to that, he was struggling mightily. I always, cheer for Daigle, but he feels a little expensive in this field. So I don't have a strong take on anybody in this range. Maybe you guys can help me out here.
Go ahead, Byron. Lead the way.
I mean, I've got a top 40 bet on Shane Lowry and Tommy Fleetwood. So I know that doesn't necessarily apply to DFS that much, but I'm a massive believer in Tommy Fleetwood's short game around this venue. If he's going to give me $8,100 Tommy Fleetwood, he's one of the best around the green players in this field. And if he's just going to chip and putt his way to a top 10 in a difficult, tough field, I think that's exactly what you're looking for from a guy in this price range. And then Taylor Montgomery is also an interesting character. He just seems to just break things, models, records, cut streaks, whatever you want to call it. The guy's just out here. Every single time he's finished inside the top 40, he's finished inside the top 20. So he's 70% top 40 rate, 70% top 20 rate since he's joined the PGA Tour. I think his upside is magnificent. I don't think he's ever going to win a tournament. He's not an absolute savage when it comes to winning, but he's going to find himself inside the top 10 more often than you can count. And I love him here in this field. He's nice, perfect greens. The greens are going to be immaculate, fast. I think he's going to putt magnificently on them again. And I think he's a guy that doesn't grade out well in models. His approach play is horrific, but the putting is just, it's next level. It's like There's not anyone in the field that can match him.
And given that I know Ryan Noonan has a bet on Sam Burns as an outright winner just at a long number because the odds were off. I do, though, think for DFS, as you said, everyone kind of gets lost, or not everyone's getting played in this tier just because everyone's trying to fill a certain lineup build, right? Like if we start with a 10K guy and a guy in the high 9s or high 8s, like this is the range really where everyone starts piling in 1 or 2 players. And if that's the case, I really just don't mind skipping the range altogether and going down because I do have a lot more confidence in, let's say, a Ricky Fowler at 8K on DraftKings. If I'm trying to fade Fleetwood and Lowry, if I believe they come in too high rostered, I think Jason Day is sneaking by as a potential like T5, T10 guy here, especially given how well, not only how far he's driven, but his driving accuracy in the last 30 days, a short sample, but has also been top 10 in this field. So I think I prefer Derek to just leak down a little bit to those players, to the Keegan Bradleys, the Corey Connors of the world, rather than trying to stack in this mid-8 range.
Yeah, now you're speaking my language. Keegan and Corey Connors, the ball strikers. Let's go. They're probably going to drive you crazy with the shot tracker, missing a bunch of 6-footers, but they're going to give themselves a lot of chances. Both of them have played well here in the past. I think, Keegan's made the last 3 cuts here, coming off of the second at Farmers after that awesome Sunday round. And Connor's just solid. He's always going to be a good total driver, good with his irons. So, yeah, I like those two quite a bit. I could see them putting them in the same lineup and then kind of heading up to the 9 and 10Ks and going from there. The Ricky take, man, I don't know what to do with Ricky this week. I want to root for him. Maybe Justin Rose's win will, light a fire under him. He's obviously got the new swing. He's got 3 top 10s already this season, or 3 top 11s. So I don't know. I want to believe in him. I probably shouldn't play him, but I probably will anyway. And I like the Jason Day call. I think it's a big year for Day. He's talked about his back health being improving and, being able to practice more. And we've seen it in the results. I think he has 6 top 25s in his last 7 starts. So I like some of those guys for sure. And one more guy in the 7,500 range. I like Tom Hoagie. This is his 5th event in a row, which is a lot, but hey, you're not going to worry about adrenaline at this event. I mean, he's going to get there and he's going to be fired up. One of the better iron players in the field, and his putting is actually a lot better than you might expect. He does bleed strokes around the green, so that's somewhat of a concern, but I'm willing to take my chances there.
Day has also been an immaculate putter over the last couple months. Your thoughts, Byron, on this next range of tier after, as you said, one of your favorite calls in the low 8s, Taylor Montgomery?
Yeah, no, I'm going to double down on Tom Hoagie there. I think the around the green stuff isn't that big of a concern for a guy that's as good an iron player as he is. I think, he's going to have those blunders around the green, but the iron play is going to be on fire. For a guy that's got the second best irons in the field at $7,500, you can't go wrong, especially at that ownership. And then 2 other guys that I really want to focus on this week is Seamus Power. He's a guy that doesn't grade out well with metrics or anything like that. But if you look at his birdie or better percentages, his bogey avoidance, and his par 5 scoring, he's one of those pretty much like most of these European players. They just get the ball in the hole somehow, no matter what. They'll hit a good iron shot, they'll hit a good chip, they'll hit a good putt. No matter what they need, they just get it in. Seamus Power had a bad-ish week. He still finished inside the top 20 last week. But I think a lot of people were expecting more from him, so they're going to be off him. He also plays incredibly well at majors and tougher courses. So I love him at this kind of a vibe where we've got all these elite talents. I think he's going to do great stuff here. And then my final guy that I want to mention is Matt Kuchar. He's starting to kind of come along with the ball striking until Pebble last week, which I'm totally fine ignoring. He was playing fantastic golf at Sony. And Matt Kuchar is one of these thoroughbreds that you play horse for course stuff all the time. When Matt Kuchar plays well at a golf course, you play a Matt Kuchar. And this golf course has got some insane track records for Matt Kuchar if you go back further than 2 years. And I think he's starting to play the golf that he was playing 2 years ago now again. And I'm all about Matt Kuchar. I think he's never going to be overwhelmed by the moment. And I think in a big field like this, he's going to be just fine.
Kuchar, of course, at 7,300 on DraftKings. And around him, I also think Taylor Pendrith for his driving is interesting. You already mentioned Tommy Hoagie, who gets that nickname because he's a degenerate gambler, well known for being that on tour. So how can we not cheer for him?
One of us.
And of course, we can't mention this range without even saying I just genuinely don't mind eating the chalk on Keith Mitchell for how well and how accurate he's been driving of late. I also know I would argue the most important golf bettor in the country right now. Bet him early for an outright win because of a long number, which got Keith Mitchell's numbers in betting world at least steamed a lot. So yeah, I'm definitely going to be in heavy on Keith Mitchell, regardless of his ownership too, Derek.
Yeah, I like that. Is that Rufus you're talking about?
It is definitely Rufus. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
The one golf bettor that matters. Yeah.
Gotta follow that guy for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't mind Keith Mitchell coming off the nice finish last week, and I'm sad you didn't mention our boy Brian Harman. Half of our DMs over the years have been about Brian Harman.
It's not really our boy though. Like when I play him, I tell you because he's your boy.
Okay. And then does he treat you well though?
He does treat me well when I play him. Yeah.
Okay,
He's a big gamer. He always shows up at the Masters. That's usually when I end up playing him.
Yeah, he's 4 for 4 here. He's got one of those solid all-around games. You know, he gains strokes off the tee, and he does it with accuracy, which should come in handy this week. I like the approach play, very hit or miss. I mean, he can gain 4 or 5 strokes one week with the irons, and then the next week he'll be completely terrible. But I like him quite a bit at 7,400. I like JT Poston. He's been playing well. He used to be known as a short game specialist. You look at his numbers over the last 6 to 8 months, and he's been doing it with the ball striking too. So I like that. Gary Woodland, I'll always take some Gary Woodland.
Gary Woodland, it's that is the equivalent. That he's the reason why I was not a successful DFS player in January. Had some amazing rounds, but they always came after his blow up rounds. But he's the guy, like you mentioned, Byron. The models continue to, like, Taylor Montgomery breaks the models. Woodland is the opposite, where the models, everything points to amazing recent performance. And then Woodland has a blow up that makes him like terrible in lineups. But if you look at the metrics, he's been great of late, honestly.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I was looking at my recent track record betting, and Gary Woodland has lost me so many more units than I actually realized, because he's always in there. I don't know what I was doing. You know, this guy just blows up when he's ever in contention. So I don't know how you want a major.
I would think though, Derek, that Tom Hoagie will probably be, I'm looking at everything. Well, no, Keith Mitchell's going to be the highest rostered, I think, among this group. So maybe Tom Hoagie is also a good pivot, only $100 more. But if you had to flag plant one player in the 7K range, who would that be?
I mean,
I know you're going to play a couple of them, but just the one player you'll be overweight on.
I like Harman and Poston, but it looks like they're going to be around 10% as well. So I'll go down a little bit and go with Brendan Steele. Just kind of taking a shot in the dark with the short game. But last 4 ball striking events, plus 5.1, plus 8.1, plus 3.9, plus 5.8. So he's dialed in with the ball striking right now, and he's played here a bunch. Has some high finishes as well. And the first time I actually went to this event, the first player I saw was Brendan Steele. So there you go. Nice full circle for you.
I don't know if that helps your lineups, but I hope it does. That's the correlation we're looking for.
It's got it. It doesn't go in the model, but it goes in the heart, you know.
Byron, you're one player in the 7K range you're playing. I think I like Jason Day the most, honestly. But I'm only saying that over Keith Mitchell because I know Keith Mitchell, I expect him to be high rostered.
Yeah, no, I can see the love for both those guys. I'm going to go with Matt Kuchar, man. I have a sneaky feeling about him this week. He's just that old dog. He just knows how to get it done now, and I think he's starting to play good golf. So not much to talk about that I've already said about him. So I love his price, love his ownership, and I think he's going to be sneaky.
As we move down to the 6Ks, which is really how you fit 2 10K plus guys in, I think there are a lot of good, not great options, but you have to sacrifice something, some kind of metric with all of them. But right now, at least, Derek, I'm expecting probably Johnny Vegas to come in a little bit higher than expected, given his recent performance. We know he's a bomber, so that certainly helps. He's also been accurate more recently than not. But around Vegas, who else do you like?
Yeah, I do think Vegas will get some steam. The ETR guy is usually pretty high on him, including Rufus, so that kind of plays into it as well. But yeah, great driver of the ball. So if he can get everything else going, I don't mind him. Other than that, I mean, you know, you mentioned it. You know, you're kind of given up something in terms of his skill set in this range. But Neesmith, great iron player. Ben, he just has like a couple blow-ups every round that you just shake your head at. Last week he was playing well, and then, triple bogey. But if you're going very down, I like Mark Hubbard at 6,300. He's 2 for 2 here, coming off of a solid finish at Pebble. He's a guy that good with his irons and good putter. You kind of take your chances, with off the tee and around the green. But I think he could be interesting if you are trying to do those 210K type of builds.
What about you, Byron, in this range?
Is Derek in my room? Because I've got my highlighted names here, and he's stolen 2 of them already. So he's 2 for 2 on that. I love Mark Hubbard. I mean, he's fantastic. I'll throw out Adam Svensson on a shorter golf course. In the dome environment, I think he's a great ball striker. He's not typically the best from inside 5 feet, which I don't think we'll see that much of this week. I think he's a much better putter outside of that range. Kevin Kisner is another guy I'm going to take a gamble on, especially with him putting on Bermuda. The Bermuda putting for Kiz, Derek, is one of those metrics where his putting stats are ridiculously better on Bermuda versus every other surface. So he already putted well last week on POA. Now we're going to get him on Bermuda on these pristine greens. Sign me up. And then Hayden Buckley's another guy that I'm a big fan of this week, especially from an elite. I mean, the good drives gain from Hayden Buckley is 4th in this field. So, I mean, he's sitting at $6,800 here, and he's one of the best drivers of the golf ball from an accuracy and distance perspective. So he's really sneaky, I think, too. Well, not sneaky. He's sitting at like 6% ownership, but for a $6,800 guy, I'm okay with that.
If you're looking for more bombers, I've also toyed around with Steven Yeager and Kevin Tway at 6,300, though admittedly those are blind bombers because they haven't been accurate off the tee, so they could very easily kill you. But I am quite high on Yeager if you want to get to 6,600. Hubbard's interesting at 6,300 too. I do like that call. About that though, Derek, I want to get basically your top 2 golfers that you're starting lineups with. Who are your 2 core players for this tournament?
All right. Well, at least in the ones that I wrote up in my core plays article, I guess I got to go with those 2. So I went with John Rahm and Brian Harman. I really like Cantlay as well at 9,500. I like Xander as well at 10. I think those 4 are really strong options. But yeah, so I'll go Harman and Rahm. What
about you, Byron?
I'm gonna go with Tom Kim as my top guy there, and then I think I think he's going to be great this week. And then I'm going to go with some Matt Kuchar. I don't know why. I got to get on board. I don't know. I can't get off Matt right now. I think he's going to be great. So those are my 2.
I will go with Xander and just eat the chalk. And then, gosh, Keith Mitchell's probably a good answer, but I'll say Jason Day. I'm going to be over the field on Jason Day for sure this week. Derek, you're at any tier. Just what player are you most likely to fade this week, given projected ownership right now on Wednesday?
Ooh, that's a good question. Let me pull up the ownership. Byron, do you have your answer ready?
Sure, I'll dive in. Right. And John, it's going to be Keith Mitchell, my friend. I'm sorry to tell you.
It's okay.
There's certain guys that if they're going to be high owned and their sole, his driving ability is fantastic, but one of his other strengths is his putting. And I just don't think I want a guy that's going to be super high owned that relies on the putter to get the birdies in the hole. The driving is going to set him up, but the putting we saw on that, when he gets into contention, it kind of gets a little cold. So, and at that ownership, why not?
Well, and also, honestly, given the ownership, your favorite pivot, Kuchar, from Keith Mitchell makes a lot of sense because, again, your guy won't be rostered at all, which is great for DFS, of course.
Yeah.
Noto?
All right, I'm going to go Sam Burns. Not going to be extremely popular, but looking like, 10 to 14%. So he's lost on approach in 4 of his last 6. The driver's been pretty bad over the last couple months. He's only 1 of 4 here. So I don't really understand why, he's getting this much ownership. As far as a pivot, I don't like the range in total. So I'll just pivot, in terms of lineup construction and go 7Ks and 9Ks and kind of skip that range altogether.
I was going to say 8Ks was my fade. So we're just fading the entire middle range basically. But honestly, although I do like Cameron Young a whole lot, From Cameron Young all the way down to Fleetwood. Again, I think it's going to become, as you mentioned, Burns. I think it's going to become quite popular just for the sake of lineup building. If that's the case, I don't mind skipping it because we've already mentioned a lot of golfers we like around that range. And so I don't mind hammering them instead. Before we get out of here, Noto, I also want to get your favorite bet of the week, since like me, I know you will have some shots to sweat on Sunday morning when we're together.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait to get into a legal sports betting state. I have to drive across the border once a week to make my golf bets.
What a life.
So, yeah, I'm excited for Nashville this weekend. But, yeah, my favorite bet of the week, I'm not sure what the number's at right now, is Tony Finau. It looks like he's still getting about 20. There were some 24s, 25s out there earlier in the week. But, man, I love the boy he's playing. It's a home game for him now. The mixed course history is kind of, getting people off of him, and I think that's why his number is where it is.
Byron, favorite bet?
Tom Kim, top 20, plus 150. Let's go.
And then I have, unfortunately for you, Byron, I think Keith Mitchell top 10 is still safe in my opinion. So I have a lot of Mitchell T10s out there. I apologize. Hopefully
one of us is going to be right.
It'll work out. Well, that's great. Then we have a 50-50 shot of helping someone out. Just depends who you follow. Anything else, Derek, before we get out of here on this tournament and lineup building?
No, I appreciate you guys having me on. It's been a lot of fun. You guys are the best. Keep it up. And yeah, I'll see you this weekend.
Tell everyone where they can find you.
Yeah, you can follow my stuff at rotogrinders.com. You can follow me on Twitter at RG_notorious. And yeah, just always down to mix it up if you have any questions.
Byron, any final thoughts? Where can they find you?
At the Model Maniac on Twitter, at Rotoballer. Obviously, I'm doing all my stuff there, and just on Twitter an healthy amount of time right now. So I need to get rid of that stuff in my life. But yeah, happy to have the show with you boys. Had a fun time chatting it up, and it's going to be a hell of a week. Can't wait to drink too many beers over the weekend watching this stuff and have a good time. So
the rest of the crew will be back for the betting roundtable show shortly. But until then, be a little bit kinder than what's required. We'll see you next time.